The rain-slicked streets of Brooklyn gleamed under the sodium glow of street lamps as Alexander slammed his fist into the brick wall of the alley. The sharp crack of bone against stone echoing like a gunshot in the night. "Fuck you, Finn. Fuck you for leaving me like this," he whispered through gritted teeth, his voice breaking into a sob that tasted like bourbon and regret. Blood trickled from his knuckles, mixing with the downpour, as he slid to the wet pavement, the weight of his wedding ring suddenly feeling like a noose around his finger. Alexander Hayes had always been the picture of suburban success, a high school history teacher in Park Slope with a cozy brownstone, a wife named Laura who baked apple pies for neighborhood block parties, and 2 kids who called him Dad with the kind of unfiltered adoration that made his chest ache. At 38, he was the guy everyone envied, broad-shouldered, with that easy Midwestern charm he'd carried from Ohio to New York 15 years ago, chasing dreams of ivy-covered academia that fizzled into chalk dust and lesson plans on the American Revolution. But beneath the pressed khakis and the world's best dad mug sat a secret that gnawed at him like termites in the foundation of his life. It started innocently enough, or so he told himself in the quiet hours before dawn when Laura's soft snores filled their bedroom. A glance lingering too long at the barista's tattooed forearms during his morning coffee run. A brush of shoulders in the crowded subway that sent electricity crackling up his spine. By 25, married and settled, he'd buried it deep, convinced it was a phase, a glitch in the straight arrow code of his upbringing. Catholic guilt from his steel-town roots kept the lid on tight. But New York had a way of prying it open. One humid summer night at a dive bar in the East Village. That was where he met Javier first. Javier, with his olive skin and laugh like gravel under tires, who bought Alexander a whiskey neat and leaned in close enough to smell of sandalwood and sin. "You look like you need to forget something," Javier had murmured, his hand grazing Alexander's thigh under the sticky bar top. 2 drinks in, they were stumbling into a bathroom stall, Javier's mouth hot and demanding against Alexander's, hands fumbling with belts and zippers in a frenzy that left Alexander gasping. Terrified? Alive. It was over in minutes, raw, reckless, unforgettable. Javier vanished into the night with a wink and a number Alexander never called. But the door he'd cracked open swung wide after that. For years, it was sporadic. Anonymous hookups on apps with code names like Discreet Prof or History Buff NYC, always in seedy motels off the Belt Parkway or shadowed corners of Central Park after dark. Men with rough hands and whispered promises who gave him what Laura's tender touches never could, a release that felt like drowning in fire. He'd come home reeking of cheap cologne and lies, scrubbing his skin raw in the shower while Laura hummed in the kitchen, oblivious, folding his laundered shirts with that trusting smile. Guilt twisted like a knife, but the hunger was stronger. It was addiction. He knew, chasing the high of being seen, truly seen, in a body that finally made sense when it arched under another's. Then came Ethan. Ethan. It was a Tuesday in September, the kind of crisp fall day that painted Prospect Park in golds and reds, when Alexander spotted him during his lunch break jog. Ethan was sketching on a bench, charcoal smudged on his fingers, his lean frame hunched over a pad as if the world depended on capturing the curve of a leaf. 29. With messy blonde curls that caught the sunlight like a halo and green eyes that seemed to hold entire forests, Ethan looked like he'd stepped out of a Kerouac novel, Wander. Free in a way Alexander could only dream of. Their eyes met when Alexander paused to tie his shoe, and Ethan grinned, slow and crooked. You run like you're fleeing something, he said. Voice low and teasing, laced with that faint southern drawl from Atlanta roots. Alexander laughed it off. But he couldn't shake it. The next week, he, accidentally, jogged the same loop. Ethan was there again. This time with a thermos of coffee he offered like contraband. They talked about Rothko's abstracts, the hypocrisy of manifest destiny in Alexander's curriculum, the way New York's pulse drowned out the soul. Ethan was a freelance illustrator, scraping by on gigs for indie zines and murals in Bushwick lofts. Unapologetically queer in a city that still chewed up the vulnerable. I came out at 16, he confessed over shared falafel from a truck. Lost half my family in the fallout. But fuck 'em, I'm here now. Alexander nodded, throat tight, envying that brutal honesty while his own truth festered like an untreated wound. One coffee led to two. Then walks through the park where Ethan's hand would brush his. Deliberate and electric. Alexander fought it, told himself it was just friendship, a lifeline in his suffocating routine. But on a rainy afternoon in Ethan's tiny Williamsburg walk-up, surrounded by half-finished canvases and the scent of turpentine, resistance crumbled. Ethan had been showing him a series of portraits, raw, unflinching studies of lovers entwined, and when he turned, their faces inches apart, Alexander whispered, "I can't," even as he leaned in. Ethan's kiss was soft at first, exploratory, then deepening into something that shattered Alexander's defenses. They tumbled onto the threadbare couch, clothes shedding like old skin, Ethan's body lithe and urgent against his, hands mapping scars and freckles Alexander had forgotten he had. It wasn't just sex. With Ethan, it was revelation. Nights blurred into stolen weekends, Alexander fabricating parent-teacher conferences or grading retreats. Laura none the wiser as she planned their anniversary trip to the Hamptons. Ethan listened when Alexander vented about the monotony of marriage, the pressure of providing for Lily and Max, the fear that one wrong glance at a school event would unravel it all. "You're more than this cage you're building," Ethan would say, tracing patterns on Alexander's chest in the dim light of motel rooms, their limbs tangled in sheets that smelled of salt and sweat. In those moments, Alexander glimpsed a parallel life. No rings, no alibis. Just two men carving out space in a world that still whispered, "freak," behind closed doors. But cracks formed early. Laura noticed the late nights, the distracted silences over dinner. "Everything okay at work?" "Hon," she'd ask, her hand on his arm, eyes searching. Alexander would force a smile, kiss her forehead, bury the guilt deeper. Carried shadows, exes who'd ghosted after coming out got too real. A lingering distrust of commitment from a youth spent hustling for survival. Yet they fell hard. Inevitably. "I love you," Alexander breathed one dawn, watching Ethan sleep, the words slipping out like a prayer he couldn't take back. Ethan's eyes fluttered open, green and unguarded. "Say it again," he murmured, pulling Alexander close. "I love you too. You beautiful idiot." For 6 months, it was a fever dream. Picnics in hidden glades where Ethan sketched Alexander's profile, capturing the quiet storm in his eyes. Late-night drives upstate, windows down, Springsteen blasting as they sang off-key about Born to Run Hearts. Ethan even met the kids once, framed as Daddy's artist friend at a park playdate, charming Lily with balloon animals while Alexander's pulse thundered with terror and thrill. Laura waved it off, busy with her nursing shifts. But the lie grew heavier, a boulder on Alexander's chest. Then came the first fracture. Thanksgiving weekend, 2024. The family gathered in their brownstone. Turkey roasting, laughter echoing. Alexander slipped out for a walk, meeting Ethan at a diner off Flatbush. But Ethan was distant, nursing a black coffee, his sketches abandoned. "We gotta talk," he said, voice flat. Alexander's stomach dropped. "What's wrong?" Ethan sighed, running a hand through his curls. "This. It's killing you, Alex. I see it, the way you flinch when your phone buzzes during dinner. I don't want to be the villain in your story." Alexander reached for his hand, desperate. "You're not. You're the only real part." But Ethan's eyes were resolute. "Lie. And honestly, I'm scared too. What if she finds out? What if I push you to leave and it all blows up?" They argued in hushed tones, words like daggers, Ethan accusing Alexander of cowardice, Alexander pleading for time. It ended with a slammed door, Ethan storming into the rain, leaving Alexander adrift in the diner's fluorescent hum. He went home reeking of despair, Laura pulling him into a hug. "Missed you," she murmured, and the guilt hit like a freight train. Days turned to weeks of radio silence, Alexander pacing his classroom, grading papers with trembling hands. He texted apologies, voicemails raw with pleas. Finally, Ethan relented, a hesitant coffee at their park bench. "I'm sorry," Alexander started, but Ethan cut him off with a kiss, fierce and forgiving. "No more ultimatums," Ethan said, forehead against his. "But we can't keep dancing on this knife edge." They promised change, therapy for Alexander, maybe couples counseling disguised as solo sessions. It felt possible, fragile as spun glass. Winter deepened, snow blanketing the city in hush. Christmas lights twinkled as Alexander and Ethan exchanged gifts in a snow-globed Central Park. A leather-bound journal from Ethan for Alexander's unwritten confessions. A vintage compass from Alexander etched with True North. New Year's Eve. They toasted with smuggled champagne in Ethan's loft. Fireworks bursting outside as they made love slow and deliberate. Bodies sinking like a heartbeat. "This year," Alexander whispered, tracing Ethan's spine. "I choose us." Ethan smiled, but there was a shadow in his eyes. A flicker Alexander dismissed as fatigue. Spring thawed the ice, but not the undercurrents. Laura announced a promotion, head nurse. More hours but better pay for the kids' college funds. Alexander cheered, masking the relief that bought him space. Ethan landed a gallery show in Chelsea, his portraits of queer invisibility drawing buzz. Pride Month arrived, rainbows unfurling across Manhattan, and for once, Alexander marched, not in the closet, hand in Ethan's under the roar of the crowd. It was euphoric, terrifying, cheers thundering. Signs waving, love wins, Alexander's heart pounding as if the world might finally bend. That night, spent and sated in a hotel overlooking the parade, Ethan turned to him. "What if we ran? Just you? Somewhere the past can't touch." Alexander laughed it off. But the seed took root, germinating in sleepless nights. By summer, the idol frayed. Ethan's show sold out, but success brought scrutiny, interviewers probing his inspirations, eyes lingering on Alexander in crowd photos. Paranoia crept in, anonymous emails to Ethan's inbox, slurs scrawled on his building's wall. Faggot artist ruining families, one read. And Alexander's blood ran cold. Had someone seen them? Meanwhile, grew warmer, more affectionate, as if sensing his drift. Date nights at Italian spots in Carroll Gardens? Her head on his shoulder during rom-coms. I love our life, she said one night. And Alexander choked on the lie of agreement. The breaking point loomed in July. Heat wave shimmering the asphalt. Ethan called, voice edged with panic. Meet me. Now. Alexander ditched a faculty meeting, heart slamming as he raced to the loft. Ethan paced, phone clutched like a grenade. It's over, he blurted. Alexander froze. What? Ethan thrust the screen forward, a grainy photo. Time-stamped last week, Alexander and him. Kissing in the park. Circled in red. Below. A message, tell your wife. I will. Sender unknown. Alexander's world tilted. How? Ethan shook his head. Eyes wild. Doesn't matter. We can't, this could destroy you. The kids. Alexander grabbed his arms. Desperate. No. We fight it. Together. But Ethan pulled away. Resolve hardening. I love you too much to watch you burn. Go home. Alex. Be the husband she deserves. Alexander begged. But Ethan was stone, packing a duffel as if he'd planned this. Wait, Alexander pleaded. Tears hot. Don't leave me. Ethan's kiss was goodbye. Soft and shattering. Find your truth. Without me dragging you down. Then he was gone. Door clicking shut like a coffin lid. Alexander stood in the empty loft. Echoes mocking him. The compass gift now a cruel joke on the table. Weeks blurred into numbness. Alexander stalked Ethan's socials, posts from Atlanta, cryptic sketches of vanishing horizons. No contact. Just silence that screamed. Laura noticed his pallor. Pressed for answers he deflected with half-truths. School started. Kids chattering about vacations. But Alexander moved like a ghost. Knuckles bruised from that alley night in November. The rain washing away nothing. Fall leaves crunched underfoot as Alexander trudged home from school. The weight of unread texts from Ethan burning a hole in his pocket, none sent. All drafted in feverish bursts at 3 a.m. It had been 3 months since the photo. Since Ethan's flight south like a migratory bird fleeing winter. Alexander replayed it obsessively, the loft's creak, the duffel zipping shut, Ethan's green eyes dulling with finality. Find your truth, it said. But truth felt like quicksand, sucking Alexander under while Laura's laughter floated from the kitchen. Oblivious anchor. He tried to bury it. Therapy sessions with Dr. Ramirez, a no-nonsense Latina in a midtown office who peeled back layers like onion skin. This double life, it's not sustainable. Alex. You're not just cheating, you're erasing yourself. Her words stung. But they stuck. Alexander journaled furiously. The leather-bound gift from Ethan filling with scrawled confessions. I miss his laugh. The way he made me feel whole. What if I can't go back? He'd lie beside Laura. Her curves familiar yet foreign. Guilt a vice. Sex with her was duty now. Mechanical and mercifully rare. her sighs echoing his fraudulence. The extortionist went quiet, no follow-up threats. Just digital vapor. Alexander changed his number, scrubbed his apps. But paranoia lingered like cigarette smoke. At parent-teacher nights, he'd scan faces for recognition, pulse racing at every lingering stare. Lily's soccer games became minefields, Max's science fair a blur of forced pride. "Daddy seems sad," Lily whispered one evening, her pigtails drooping. Alexander scooped her up. "Throat tight?" "Just tired." "Bug." "Daddy's fine." Lies stacked like cordwood, ready to ignite. Ethan's absence was a hemorrhage, slow and relentless. Alexander drove past the Williamsburg loft once, heart lurching at the "for rent" sign flapping in the wind. Social media offered glimpses. Ethan in a Savannah cafe, sketching marshlands, caption chasing light. Comments from strangers, gorgeous work. Man, twisted the knife. Imagining hands that weren't his tracing those curls. He resisted reaching out, honoring Ethan's exile. But dreams betrayed him, Ethan's body warm and yielding, waking Alexander slick with sweat and shame. October brought a storm, literal and figurative. Hurricane remnants lashed the coast. Laura's shift canceled, forcing intimacy. Curled on the couch during a power outage, candles flickering, she traced his jaw. "We've drifted, haven't we?" Her voice was soft, vulnerable. "Alexander escuchant." "Work stress," he muttered, but she pressed. "Is there someone else?" The question hung, thunder rumbling outside. Timid her eyes, brown, trusting, the same ones that vowed forever under Ohio oaks, and cracked. "Laura, words jammed, the photos ghost leering. She waited, patient as ever. "Talk to me." He couldn't. Instead, he pulled her close, kissing her with desperate fervor, as if passion could cauterize the wound. She responded, but it felt like pity, their bodies moving through motions etched in muscle memory. The next morning, over burnt toast, she tried again. "Alex, we're a team." "Whatever it is," he nodded, fleeing to school where the bell's ring was reprieve. But the dam breached that afternoon, a parent conference with Mr. a burly contractor whose son struggled with essays. As Alexander explained timelines, Hargrove's gaze sharpened. "Heard you got some extracurriculars?" "Haze." The room spun. "What?" Hargrove leaned in, breath sour. "Saw you in the park last summer. With that guy. Kissing like teenagers." Alexander's blood iced. "You don't know," Hargrove smirked. "Wife'd want to hear. Unless you pass Tommy with AC. Blackmail. Crude and immediate." Alexander's fist clenched under the desk. "Get out." Hargrove laughed, rising. "Your funeral." "Professor." Rage propelled him to the alley that night, the same one where despair had bloodied his knuckles months prior. Rain pelted as he punched the wall, the pain a welcome distraction from the unraveling. Ethan was right, he thought, sliding down. This life devours. He called Ethan then, voicemail beeping in the downpour. "I need you. It's all falling apart." "Please." No response. Just static and regret. Days later, a package arrived, no sender, Just a manila envelope shoved through the mail slot. Inside, prints of the park photo. With a note scrawled in block letters. Tick-tock. Confess or combust. Alexander burned them in the sink. Flames licking porcelain. But the ash clung. He confronted Hargrove at pickup. Voice low in the lot. Delete it. Or I report you. Hargrove blanched but sneered. Mutuelle destruction? Buddy. Stalemate. A powder keg primed. Desperation birthed recklessness. Alexander drove south one weekend. Kids at soccer camp. Laura at a conference. 8 hours to Atlanta. Heart hammering the interstate. Ethan's address from an old text led to a shotgun house in Inman Park. Porch sagging with ferns. He knocked. Knuckles raw again. And when Ethan opened the door, curls longer. Eyes wary, time fractured. Alex, Ethan breathed. Surprise melting to sorrow. What the hell? They talked for hours. Porch swing creaking under bourbon from Ethan's flask. Alexander spilled it all, the threats, the crumbling facade. Laura's quiet pleas. Ethan listened, fingers drumming his knee. The southern humidity thick as unspoken words. I left to save you, he said finally. Voice cracking. Not to watch from afar. Alexander reached for him. Tentative. Then don't. Ethan's resistance folded like paper. They kissed under the magnolia tree. Slow and searing. Hands rediscovering paths. Inside. On a lumpy futon amid half-packed boxes, Ethan freelancing for a Charleston firm. Roots tugging north again. Their reunion was cathartic. Bodies colliding with the urgency of survivors. Ethan arched beneath him, gasping Alexander's name like absolution. Green eyes locking in the dim lamplight. I never stopped, Ethan murmured after. Head on Alexander's chest. But this... It's poison. Morning brought clarity. Harsh as black coffee. Ethan was leaving, permanently. Gallery in Portland offered a residency. Fresh start. Alexander's heart plummeted. Come with me. The words escaped. Unbidden. Ethan sat up. Sheets pooling. And your family? Rip it apart. Alexander faltered. I don't know how. But Ethan silenced him with a finger to lips. You do know. But you're not ready. They parted with a hug that bruised. Ethan slipping a new sketch into Alexander's hand, their silhouettes against a city skyline, fading into stars. True north, he whispered. Drive home was blur. Tears salting the windshield. November deepened the chill. Alexander mustered courage. Booking a real couples session, framed as midlife check-in. Laura agreed. Wary but willing. Ramirez mediated. Her office a neutral ground of potted ferns. Communication, she urged. Laura spoke first. I feel alone. Alex. Like you're a million miles away. He nodded. Throat bobbing. I have been. There's something I need to tell you. The words hovered. The photo's specter looming. But Hargrove's threat choked them. Instead, he pivoted. I love you. But I'm lost. Laura squeezed his hand. Then let's find you. Progress. From it. But the lie festered. Ethan's Portland move trended on niche art feeds, murals of reclaimed narratives. His face thinner. Happier? Alexander ate. Drafting unsent letters. Portland suits you. Mr. Chaos. Holidays loomed. A gauntlet. Thanksgiving at his parents' in Cleveland, steel mills rusting on the horizon. Mom's pierogies a comfort food trap. How's that pretty wife? Dad boomed, clapping his back. Alexander smiled through gritted teeth. Ethan's absence a phantom limb. Christmas Eve. Snow dusting brownstones. Laura strung lights while kids squealed. Alexander wrapped gifts mechanically. Compass from Ethan tucked in his drawer like contraband. Midnight mass at a Agnes. Candles flickering. The choir's silent night piercing. Kneeling. He prayed, not for forgiveness, but clarity. Show me the way out. Dawn brought Lily's gasp over a dollhouse. Max's glee at a telescope. Laura kissed his cheek. Best Christmas yet. Guilt surged. Title. New Year's. A party at neighbors, eggnog flowing. Resolutions toasted. Alexander slipped out for air. Phone buzzing, unknown number. Happy New Year. Sinner. Photo drops tomorrow unless $5,000 wired. Escalating. Panic clawed. He wired it from an ATM. Hands shaking. Vowing confrontation. January thawed secrets. Ramirez pushed. Own your desires. Alex. Or they'll own you. He cracked open to Laura in session. I've been unfaithful. Her face crumpled. A dam breaking. Who? Not the full truth, just a woman, the easier lie. She wept. He held her. The half-confession a bandage on gangrene. Why? She gasped. I don't know who I am anymore. They agreed space, her to his sisters in Jersey. Him solo in the brownstone with kids shuttled. Emptiness echoed. But so did possibility. Ethan called then. Voice tentative over static. Heard from a mutual. You okay? Alexander broke. Spilling the partial purge. I told her. Part of it. Silence. Then Ethan's sigh. Brave. Stupid. But brave. They talked till battery died, Portland's rain mirroring Brooklyn's. Dreams of reunion flickering. Come back, Alexander begged. When you're free, Ethan replied. A lifeline tossed. But freedom's price mounted. Hargrove cornered him post-wire, parking lot shadows. Breath reeking. Nice doing business. But I got more pics. Alexander snapped. Fist flying, crack of jaw. Hargrove crumpling. Bruises bloomed. A police report filed. Hargrove's wife dragging him away with apologies. Fallout, school admin probing. Laura's texts icy. What happened? Alexander confessed the blackmail, omitting the photo's queer core. She returned. Tentative truces over wine. We rebuild, she said. But trust's fracture ran deep. Spring equinox. Cherry blossoms bloomed defiant. Alexander walked the park alone. Ethan's bench empty. A sketchpad lay abandoned, his? A stranger's. He sat. Journaling. The man I love vanished. But maybe he's the map. Therapy deepened. Ramirez guiding queer-affirming paths. You're gay. Alex. Or bi. Labels aside. You're you. The word gay landed soft. Revolutionary. Lily's birthday picnic. Laura baked cake. Smiled through strain. Alexander watched her chase Max. Heart twinging, not just guilt, but genuine ache for the life they'd built. That night, alone, he texted Ethan, "I'm trying. For me. For us. That's danced." Then, always waiting. True north. Summer solstice heat wave returned, mirroring last year's blaze. Alexander drove to Jersey, kids in tow, for a family reset weekend. Boardwalk cotton candy, Ferris wheel laughs, Laura's hand in his felt like old times, tentative bridge. But at dusk, phone buzzed, ting, video call. Miss your face. Alexander stepped away, heart soaring. Soon, he promised, as waves crashed below. Yet shadows lengthened. An email from Portland Gallery, Ethan's show cancelled, artist indisposed. Worry nod, calls went to voicemail. Where are you? Text piled. Unread. Days stretched. Silence deafening. Laura noticed. Your friend, he nodded. Evading. Panic built, visions of accidents. Worse. July's swelter clung like a fever as Alexander paced the brownstone. Phone clutched like a talisman. Ethan's last message, talk soon. Love, a taunt from 2 weeks prior. Portland PD confirmed nothing, no missing persons. No hospital hits under his name. Try friends, the desk sergeant drawled. Indifferent. Alexander did, Athena's sparse contacts. A ex from Savannah who stonewalled, he ghosts when cornered. Give it time. Time was acid, etching doubt. Was this payback? Another vanishing act to force Alexander's hand? Laura's return had steadied the ship, but storms brewed beneath. Couples therapy resumed. Ramirez navigating minefields. Full disclosure. Alex, she pressed. Half-truths erode. Laura's eyes. Now sharp, I deserve the whole story. Bed shared but untouched. Her back a wall. Kids sensed fractures, Lily's clingy hugs. Max's withdrawn silences. Alexander coached soccer drills with mechanical cheers. The field a metaphor for his fumbled life. Desperation birthed a road trip, solo. He told Laura. Clearing headspace. She nodded. Weird. Just come back whole. 14 hours to Portland. Greyhound bus rumbling through cornfields and pines. Alexander's journal spilling fever dreams. What if he's gone for good? What if I drove him away? City of Roses greeted with drizzle. Ethan's gallery a hipster haunt in Pearl District. The curator, a pierced pixie named Riley, frowned at his photo. Ethan bailed mid-prep. Said family emergency. Atlanta way. Left sketches, haunting stuff. She slid a portfolio, portraits of fractured lovers. One unmistakably Alexander. Eyes stormy. Title vanishing point. He poured his soul here, Riley said. Then poof. Alexander camped in Ethan's sublet, a airy studio overlooking Willamette. Canvases stacked like accusations. Fridge bare but for beer and takeout remnants, bed unmade. Sheets scented with Ethan's citrus cologne. He rifled drawers guiltily, sketches of Brooklyn bridges. A half-written letter dated June. Alex, can't keep pretending this ends well. Portland's a pause. Not escape. But your chains. Trailing off. Unfinished. Heart-shattering. Alexander crashed there. Calling Atlanta again, Athena's sister. Voice clipped. He showed up beat up. Talking nonsense about curses. Checked into a clinic. Then split. Don't know where. Clinic? Fear spiked. Depression? Relapse from old addictions Ethan had buried. Trail cold. Alexander drove south. Rental car eating miles through Oregon's mist-shrouded forests. Georgia's humid sprawl. Savannah's squares dripped Spanish moss. Ethan's childhood haunts a ghost tour of pain. The sister met him at a cafe. Wariness etched. He idolized you, she said, stirring sweet tea. Then hated himself for it. Flash, Ethan at 16. Disowned after a prom date with his best friend, hustling sketches on streets. Couch surfing to Atlanta. Queer kid in Bible Belt, it's war. She handed a thumb drive, Ethan's voicemails to her. Raw confessions. Alex is married. Sis. I'm the side plot. But God. I love him. Alexander wept in his car. Dashboard lit by passing semis. The duality crushing. Back north. August scorched. Skolund. Admin cleared the Hargrove scuffle, self-defense. But whispers slithered. Haze is off. Parents pulled kids. Enrollment dipped. Laura confronted over dinner. Kids orbit. You're obsessed with him. Alexander froze. Fork midway. Who? She laughed bitterly. Don't insult me. The artist friend. I saw the sketches in your drawer. Exposure. Raw and inevitable. He confessed then full torrent. The affairs? The park kiss? Ethan's vanishing. Laura's face drained. Wineglass shattering on tile. How long? Years. But Ethan. He's different. She recoiled. So I'm the beard? The cover for your midlife crisis. Words flew, her accusations of selfishness. His pleas of torment. I never meant to hurt you, but you did. Every lie. Dawn found them shell-shocked. Divorce papers unspoken but looming. In the wreckage, clarity pierced. Alexander came out, to Ramirez first, then colleagues. Halting assembly speech, I'm gay. And struggling. But real. Applause mixed with murmurs. A queer teacher ally hugging him post-talk. Kids took it in strides. Lily's, does this mean two moms? Drawing laughs. Max's quiet, love you anyway. Dad. Laura filed separation. Amicable but aching. Counseling for co-parenting. Assets split fair. I wish I'd seen it sooner, she said at signing. Hand lingering. Maybe we could have been friends. Alexander nodded. Free falling into unknown. September's equinox brought Ethan's search fever pitch. Private eye on retainer, ex-cop named Ruiz. Grizzled and gay. Digging digital trails. Kids off-grid, Ruiz reported over diner hash. Burner phones. Cash trails to New Orleans. Alexander flew south. Jazz funerals parading irony. Quarters balconies dripped beads. But Ethan's whisper trail led to a magazine street garret. Doorjar. Canvases gutted, looted, heart slamming. He entered, chaos of overturned easels. Blood-specked floor. Ethan. Echoes mocked. Neighbor. A drag queen named Rue. Spilled, honey vanished last week. Fight with a John, rough trade gone bad. Cops shrugged, one less hustler. Hustler? Ethan's desperation. Post-show flop. Turning tricks? Alexander's world imploded, visions of bruises. Coercion. Ruiz's leads converged, Ethan's ATM hit in the bayou. Then nothing. Dive bars yielded whispers, blonde artist brawling with a mark, vanishing into swamp night. Alexander chartered a boat. Pirogue slicing cypress knees. Gators eyeing from murk. Fool's errand, Captain drawled. But Alexander scanned shallows, calling Ethan's name to mockingbird song. I felt fireflies winking like lost signals. The shore. Bon firli. He journaled by embers. If you're gone, take my heart with you. But come back, fight for us. October's chill chased him home. Empty brownstone a tomb. Laura texted custody updates. Civil but distant. School anchored, students' essays on identity resonating. History hides the queer heroes. He guest lectured at NYU. Voice steady on Stonewall's echoes. Acute es flirt ignored. Freedom tasted bittersweet. Hookups tempting but hollow, apps deleted. Nights solo with symphonies. Halloween. Kids in costumes trick-or-treating. Lily as a witch. Max a zombie. Alexander carved pumpkins. Knife steady. When Ruiz called, got a hit. Bar in Biloxi, your boy slinging drinks? Alias East. Elation surged. Drive was blur. Gulf winds whipping. Biloxi glittered neon. Casino haze thick. The dive. Shrimp boat, reeked of fried okra and despair. Ethan behind bar. Curls tied back. Eyes dull as he poured drafts. Ethan, Alexander breathed. Stool scraping. Ethan froze. Glass slipping, shatter of ice. Alex. Shit. Crowd blurred, they retreated to alley. Smoke curling from dumpsters. Why here? Alexander demanded. Voice breaking. Éteins la cigarette. Hands trembling. Hiding. From you. Mostly. Truth unspooled. Post-Portland. Debts crushed. Tricks for cash spiraled. A beating sent him fleeing. Didn't want you seeing this wreck. Alexander cupped his face. Thumbs brushing stubble. You're not a wreck. You're mine. Ethan recoiled. Can't. You chose. Fury ignited. Chose? I lost everything, told Laura. Came out. Hunted you like a madman. Ethan's eyes widened. What? Alexander spilled. Divorce. Outing. The Bayou Vigil. Tears tracked Ethan's cheeks. Idiot. Beautiful idiot. They collided then, kiss bruising. Alley shadows swallowing moans as hands roamed. Reclaiming. Never again, Alexander growled against neck. No vanishing. But dawn brought thorns. Ethan's bruises bloomed purple, marks from the John. Ribs cracked. Clinic tomorrow, Alexander insisted. Driving to Gulfport ER. Weight blurred. Ethan's head on shoulder. X-rays confirmed fractures. Cop statement filed. Ethan's alias dropped. Fresh start, doctor said. Prescribing rest. Hotel room overlooking breakers. They talked till exhaustion, Ethan's shame. Alexander's rebirth. Move north, Alexander urged. With me. Ethan hesitated. Kids? Laura? We'll figure. Current. Build slow. Promise sealed with tentative lovemaking. Gentle as waves. November rain lashed as they plotted, Ethan healing. Sketches resuming for a queer mag gig. Alexander flew home weakly. Brownstone half empty. Laura's things boxed. Co-parenting calls warmed. Kids miss you, she'd say. A truce forming. Holidays split, Thanksgiving with Ethan in a rented cabin upstate. Fire crackling as they roasted marshmallows. Ghosts exorcised. To us, Ethan toasted. Green eyes bright. Alexander clinked. Hope flickering. Yet betrayal's echo lingered. September. A letter arrived, Laura's handwriting. Found more photos. Not just Ethan. Others. Stomach plummeting. Alexander confronted memories. Javier's stall. Apgos. She'd known longer. Pieced from laundry scents. Late logs. Why stay? Her reply, for the kids. For the man I thought you were. Pain lanced, mutual betrayal. Her silent endurance a mirror to his duplicity. They met neutral. Coffee shop hum. I forgive, she said. Eyes dry. But we're done. Alexander wept. Apology inadequate. Thank you for seeing me. Even broken. Christmas? Thin in Brooklyn. First family dinner. Lily giggling at his balloon tricks. Max bonding over comics. Laura nodded approval from afar. Her own life budding with a colleague's spark. New Year's Eve. Rooftop under stars. Ethan sketched Alexander anew, face open. Scars honored. True north found, he murmured. Fireworks burst. But a call shattered, Ruiz, Hargrove. Talking revenge. Deleted files. But grudges die hard. Cliffhanger tension coiled as winter bit. Alexander braced. Thin aside, lover. Sentinel. Together, they vowed. Hands clasped against chill winds. January's frost-etched windows as Alexander and Ethan fortified their fragile fortress. The brownstone a bunker of stacked boxes and half-unpacked dreams. Hargrove's grudge simmered unspoken. Ruiz tailed him to a Queen's precinct. Assault charges from their lot brawl pending review. Guys unhinged, the PI grunted over burner phone. Ex-wife spilling on his hobbies, peeping Tom shit. Alexander nodded. Ethan's arm a steady weight around his waist. We've got each other. Ethan's nod was fierce. But nightmares plagued him, sweats from Biloxi shadows. Waking with gasps. Therapy for both now. Ramirez's practice expanding to couples. Trauma bonds you. But heal separately first. School term ground on. Alexander's classes a lifeline, debating Kinsey's spectrum. Outing historical icons like Lincoln's rumored dalliances. Students opened up. A closeted jock lingering post-bell. Thanks for being. Mr. Ush. Ripple effects, invitations to GSA meetings. A mural project with local queer artists. Thindavin. Illustrating flyers with bold lines, men entwined in revolutionary poses. Reclaiming narratives. His Biloxi scars faded to silver. Confidence blooming, a solo show booked for June in Soho. Theme traces. Laura's orbit stabilized, her apartment in Cobble Hill buzzing with pottery wheels and book club nights. The new beau a gentle pediatrician named Tom. Co-parenting apps pinged seamlessly, Lily's recital Friday, I'll handle drop-off. Texts evolved warmer, Ethan seems solid. Kids adore him. Alexander replied gratitude. The divorce is ink dry but wounds cauterizing. One rainy afternoon. She dropped by unannounced. Coffee in hand. Truce? She asked. Perching on the stoop. Ethan hovered inside. Giving space. More than that, Alexander said. You are my first love. Always will be. She smiled. Sad, sweet. And you mind? But this. It's right. Hug goodbye. A chapter closed humanely, no villains. Just lives diverging. February's Valentine's blurred red, Ethan's gift a custom compass rose tattoo on Alexander's forearm. Needle buzzing in a Bushwick parlor. Direction, he explained. Lips brushing ink. Alexander reciprocated with a weekend in the Catskills, cabin by frozen lake. No phones. Just wood smoke and whispers. They skated clumsy circles, falling into snowbanks with laughter that echoed freer. Tangled in flannel sheets. Ethan's body a map Alexander memorized anew, freckles like constellations. Gasps charting peaks. I almost lost this, Alexander murmured post-climax. Fingers tracing hip bones. Ethan turned. Eyes solemn. We both did. But here, solid. Yet undercurrent stirred. Hargrove's case dragged, calling witnesses. Alexander's statement relived in sterile rooms. He threatened my family, he testified. Steady. Ethan's hand unseen but felt in his pocketed grip. Verdict loomed April. But whispers reached school. Petition to protect students from the predatory professor. Alexander's principal. Ally. Quashed it. Bigot's gonna bigot. Focus on your truth. Community rallied. Parent emails of support. A fundraiser for queer youth lit. Strength in vulnerability. Alexander learned. His closet's demolition built bridges. Spring equaled renewal. Ethan's mural unveiled in Prospect Park, vibrant queer tapestry. Alexander's profile woven subtle among lovers. Dedication crowd swelled, Laura snapping pics. Kids beaming. Even Javier from years back. Now sober and partnered. Clapping shoulder, proud of you. Man. Press nibbled out.com feature on coming out after 35. Alexander's quote raw, love isn't a phase, it's the revolution. Backlash hit, trolls doxing. Slurs spray painted on the brownstone. Ethan scrubbed with him at dawn. Turpentine stinging, they fear us because we're free. April bloomed verdant. Hargrove's trial a circus. Courtroom stale with fluorescent buzz. His ex testifying tearful, he spied on neighbors' revenge porn fantasies. Alexander's turn, measured recount of blackmail. The photo's queer sting. Judge's gavel fell, guilty? Restraining order. Therapy mandated. Hargrove's glare seared as cuffs clicked. But Alexander met it unflinching. Ethan waiting curbside with takeout po-boys. To dragon slain. May's warmth coaxed outings, family picnic in the park. Ethan flipping burgers while Lily braided his curls. Max debating superheroes. Laura joined tentative. Tom in tow, awkward graces smoothed over Esmeralda. Blended weird, she joked. But eyes held peace. Alexander watched. Chest full, not perfect. But human, messy loves overlapping without erasure. June's solstice crowned Ethan's Soho opening, gallery humming with clinks and murmurs. Walls alive with traces, vanished selves reclaimed in oil and charcoal. Alexander's portrait anchored, a half-body study. Blue eyes piercing. Expression a cocktail of ache and arrival. Critics raved. Raw humanism in queer exile. Salesport. Ethan dazed. This is us. Alex. Immortalized. After party spilled to rooftops. City lights winking approval. Dawn found them in a cab. Hands linked. Ethan's head on shoulder. Home, he sighed. Meaning the brownstone now there's lease co-signed. Walls echoing dual histories. Summer wove deeper. Vacations layered. Kids week at Disney with Laura. Then Ethan and Alexander to Provincetown, Cape's queer haven. Whale watches and dune bonfires. Bike rides along shore. Salt stiff hair. Ethan's laughter free as gulls. Remember the alley? Alexander teased one twilight. Toes in surf. Ethan grinned crooked. Birthplace of us. Love-making on beach blankets. Stars witnesses. Felt eternal, not frantic, but rooted. Yet humanity's underbelly nipped. Ethan's old demons resurfaced. A sponsor call from AA. Biloxi's echo in nightmares. Worthless hustler, he'd mutter waking. Alexander held firm. Survivor. My hero. Joint therapy unpacked it. Ramirez praising their resilient intimacy. Alexander's own shadows. Catholic echoes in midnight doubts. Am I damned? Confession over whiskey. Ethan cupped face. Nah. You're light. Chasing true north. Fall approached. Leaves turning like pages. Labor Day barbecue. Full circle, neighbors mingling. Laura toasting new chapters. Lily announced braces. Max a school play. Ethan directed sets. Alexander scripted lines. October's chill broad elections. National pulse on rights. Alexander volunteering at polls. Armband rainbowed. Vote love, he urged voters. Ethan's posters plastered lampposts. November's rain mirrored that alley night a year prior. But now Ethan pulled Alexander from the stoop. Inside warm with stew simmering. No more punching walls, he chided. Bandaging a phantom ache. Thanksgiving gathered all, Laura. Even Alexander's parents, video call from Ohio. Mom tearful, we were wrong. Love's love. Toast clinked. Turkey carved. Stories swapped. Ethan's hand under table. Anchor. December deepened bonds. Christmas tree trimmed collaborative, ornaments from Laura's era mingling Ethan's hand-blown glass. Gifts thoughtful, journal renewed for Alexander. Compass-etched cuff for Ethan. Midnight mass skipped for hot cocoa and It's a Wonderful Life. Kids conked out on couch. New Year's Eve. Rooftop redux, fireworks blooming. Ethan's sketching quick, their faces intertwined. To traces found, he murmured. Alexander kissed him deep. City symphony below. And never vanishing. Epilogue whispered in quiet months after, brownstone thrived. A polycule of sorts, Laura's brunches bleeding into game nights. Alexander's tenure track beckoned. Book proposal on queer histories brewing. Ethan's studio flourished. Commissions from Netflix for set designs. Challenges ebb, therapy marathons. Hargrove's appeal denied. Old flames flickering then doused. But core held, two men. Scarred and whole. Navigating America's vast. Flawed heart. One April dawn. 2 years post-alley. Alexander woke to Ethan's sketchpad open, a half-body portrait. His own face, blue eyes serene. Lips curved in quiet joy. Shadows lifted. Masterpiece, he whispered, pulling Ethan close. Brooklyn stirred, horns honking. Lives intersecting. No vanishings. Just horizons endless. True north. Clinged. In the end, love wasn't erasure or betrayal's triumph. But persistence, human, message, redemptive. Alexander Hayes, once fractured, Now forged, cheater no more. But man, unapologetic,